All right, let's do a little bit of math, shall we? Because I've been trying to wrap my big wrinkly brain around the figures from Joe Biden's speech last night. I've been trying to think about this all day, and the numbers just do not add up. Welcome to Cairo Nights. I'm Jack Stein. I was thinking about this number, $14,000. That is how much each and every violation of the new mandate is going to cost, potentially a private business, if they do not comply with Joe Biden's mandate that every single person at a company with 100 employees or more has to get the vaccine, or they have to get tested once a week. And I was thinking about that. I thought, okay, so I've got a company of 100 people, and I decide that it is my right as an American not to have to force my employees to get the COVID-19 vaccine, and the OSHA or whatever labor department comes down on me and they fine me for each and every single violation of that. That would be $1.4 million a week, according to the Biden administration. Now, let's just say I say, okay, well, I don't want to force them to get vaccinated, so I'm going to get everybody a test. Well, I did a little bit of digging, a little bit of research. On average, a COVID test from a private practitioner can cost anywhere from about $50 to $100. So if I've got, let's just do a quick math here, shall we? If I've got, pull up my calculator because I got my GED. If I have 100 employees, and at the least, it's $50 a test, right? Times 50. That's going to be $5,000 a week, and then I multiply that by 4 weeks in a month, right? So I'm going to spend $20,000 a month getting everybody tested for COVID-19. Now, at the high end of that, let's just multiply that. So at the high end of that, I'm going to spend anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 a month to make sure that all my employees don't have COVID-19. Okay, so either way, this is a go get vaccinated or pay up scheme. This is an awful scheme from the Biden administration, and it's designed, if you do the math, it's designed to handicap businesses. It's designed to destroy businesses. Mr. Joe Biden, get him done, Joe Biden. Hey, everybody, quit picking on Joe Biden. Good old Joe Biden. He's just out there because he cares. Gosh darn it, he just cares about Americans, and he cares about American businesses. He cares so much about everything. That's why in his presidential remarks that he released, the script that he released, that's why he said, directly from whitehouse.gov, this is not about freedom or personal choice. That's straight from Joe Biden's mouth. Do you want to know why he said that? Because he cares. It's because he cares. He's an authoritarian tyrant because he cares. And you know what? It's upsetting to me, gosh darn it, as an American, to listen to all you guys pick on the tyrant authoritarian that is Joe Biden, who's weaponizing bureaucracies against defenseless American businesses. I can't believe that you guys would come down on Joe Biden. All he's trying to do is make sure that people don't get COVID-19. I can't believe that you guys would do this to Joe Biden. This is the argument that I keep hearing from people over and over and over again. They're saying, hey, Joe Biden, the man just cares. He whispers really creepy into the microphone, get vaccinated, because he cares so much about everybody. As a matter of fact, he cares so much that he will destroy your business if you do not comply with his tyrannical mandates. That's how much he cares. That's frightening. It really is quite frightening, and I see it not only from Joe Biden, but I also see it from Jay Inslee, who today, Nick Bowman is reporting over at My Northwest, says this is not a time for baby steps. Goes on to say that Governor Inslee is actively considering expanded vaccine requirements. Again, a vaccine mandate for state employees will take effect on October 18th. It does not extend to businesses requiring having proof of vaccinations for customers. But we already know of 2 counties now requiring that indoor restaurants and bar patrons be fully vaccinated. It's kind of funny. If you think about it, Joe Biden has always talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Always. This is what his talking points have been in almost every single speech that he has made. Moreover, Jay Inslee constantly talks about diversity, equity, and inclusion. These fun words, these fun little buzz phrases that we like to use. Okay. If we look at the numbers from the CDC on the amounts of people out there who have not been vaccinated by race. It shows an astonishing figure because the Biden administration has said and used phrases like systemic racism. Jay Inslee has used phrases like systemic racism. And this vaccine requirement or the vaccine passport or whatever you want to call it, these mandates, will create systemic racism. Now, you could be saying, Jack Stein, how could that possibly be a thing? The definition of systemic racism is this idea that there are systems out there which inadvertently, disproportionately affect members of the black and brown communities. Okay, 7 out of 10, this is according to the CDC, 7 out of 10 black Americans are not vaccinated, 6 out of 10 Hispanic Americans are not vaccinated. So tell me what this is. You are creating a two-tiered system in the United States, which unfortunately and inadvertently is drawn on racial lines. If you are a Caucasian person in the United States, you are much more likely to have been vaccinated. Think about how this will affect black and brown people, and moreover, think about how this will affect black and brown businesses out there. We heard from Joe Biden how much he cares about the people out there. He cares about African Americans. He cares about Hispanic Americans. He cares about all these people out there. He wants to make sure diversity, equity, inclusion is in every single speech he has ever given. And yet he himself and Jay Inslee have put forth proposals which will directly affect black people, directly affect Hispanic people. What awful racists, am I right? What awful bigots, am I right? To instill this system with all the data that they have about black and brown people in the United States, to put this kind of stuff into effect or to consider it, as Jay Inslee has said. What an evil, awful bigot, right? I mean, I'm just going off of the whole systemic racism thing. I'm just trying to play the game. I'm just trying to go along with the rules that you guys set up. You guys like to always talk about, the policing disproportionately affects members of the black and brown community, and that's why we have to tear down the entire system because it disproportionately affects members of the black and brown community. We need to defund the police, and now they are engaging in the exact same kind of behavior. This is extreme. This is extreme to the extent that I have difficulty fully conveying it or understanding from people who agree with it how you could possibly be on board with this capricious, short-sighted proposal from the Biden administration and potentially from Jay Inslee. This idea that this proposal is being weighed at the state level, Inslee says, it's the kind of measure we might consider on a wider basis as this pandemic increases. That's what he said yesterday. He goes on to say, those things are under active consideration. We are in that type of danger zone at this moment. I was reading a fun article. I forget where it was, but basically the premise of the article was that if you changed vaccine passport to immunology receipt, I think, or if you changed vaccine passport to immunology report or something, immunology record or something like that, that subtle shift in language might encourage people to go out and get the vaccine who are already vaccine hesitant. And it just hit me out of nowhere. I said, oh, okay, 1984. Okay, all right, you want me to engage in a little bit of a doublethink. You want me to engage in a little bit of news speak. You want me to change the name of something, even though it has the exact same meaning of what it otherwise might have, right? So we are now officially living in a weird 1984 universe where people are saying that Joe Biden or people like Joe Biden or Jay Inslee or Gavin Newsom or whoever it is, that they are kind and compassionate, even though they are disproportionately affecting members of the black and brown community, and that they care about business and they care about the economy, even though they're threatening to destroy businesses if they do not comply. 84, man. Orwell really was a prophet in so many ways because he knew, I think, the systems that would happen or the language that would be put in place to try to coerce people or convince them otherwise. And you know what the other problem is? Apathy. Apathy. How many people out there are apathetic to what is going on right now? How many people out there, might be your neighbors, might be coworkers, something like that, people who are just apathetic to the idea of this massive government overreach? You know, I don't think it's going to fly, by the way. I don't think that any of this is going to fly. I think that there's going to be lawsuits from the states, which many states are already gearing up for this. Many legal teams are already gearing up from this, particularly states of Texas. A lot of red states out there saying, we absolutely will not do this. State of Florida has done the same thing. saying that it is our job to protect our citizens from this kind of capricious overreach from the Biden administration. Why Inslee is falling in line with this and not saying my job as governor is to protect the businesses in my state, regardless of whether or not I agree with it or not. Why he's not standing up for the people of Washington is a sore disappointment and in many ways a form of cowardice to say, okay, well, I guess I'll just capitulate to the presuppositions of the federal government and not say, hey, whoa, wait a minute. I may be Sleepy J. Inslee, but gosh darn it, I'm here to protect people, all of the people that I represent in the state of Washington, not just Western Washington, but also Eastern Washington. And I'm here as a spokesperson for everyone in my state, whether I like it or not. That should be the motto from Inslee, right? But of course, he's not going to do that because he's got to toe the party line and talk about segways and electric cars. So speaking of, by the way, this is extreme in a way that I find frightening at this point in time. And on the topic of apathy, Dr. Fauci came out and he was speaking on CNN directly after the president's speech yesterday, and he said maybe one of the most disturbing things that I think that I have ever heard him say, and I have cringed many a time at Dr. Fauci, but he said that President Biden's announcement was moderate in his demand. Here's what that sounded like yesterday on CNN.
Well, I think the president is being somewhat moderate in his demand, if you want to call it that, in that there are some people who really don't want to get vaccinated, but they don't want to lose their job. You got to give them an off lane. And the off lane is if you get tested frequently enough and find out you're positive, you won't come to work and you won't infect other people. So it really is somewhat of a compromise there. Myself, I would make it just vaccinate or not. But he was trying to be moderate in what his pronouncement was.
Just a quick reminder, $1.4 million potentially per week in violations, or in excess of $20,000 to $40,000 in expenditures a month in order to comply with this. And Fauci is saying that this is moderate. Dr. Fauci is saying that this is moderate. Now, I wrote in an article today at My Northwest about my 6-step plan. I rewrote Joe Biden's 6-step plan. My main recommendation to the Biden administration was to get rid of Fauci and to get rid of Rochelle Walensky, to fire those people and get a new set of doctors in that represent the interests of their community. So you get some doctor from the Ozarks. It's like, hey, everybody, I think these vaccines are great. Get a black guy, get a Hispanic doctor, get an Asian lady. It doesn't make any difference. But you get some new faces in there who can actually talk about the concerns of those communities, the various conspiracies or myths that are popping out in those conspiracies. And the other thing that you do is that you actually bring up those conspiracies at the national level and you address them and you talk about them and you talk about maybe the most extreme elements of what people are talking about when it comes to the vaccines, so that people feel like this stuff isn't being talked about behind closed doors. You bring it all to the front, and you talk about the pericarditis and the myopericarditis in those young kids who are getting the vaccine, and you talk about the statistical likelihood of that, and you talk about it in such a way so that people who are hesitant can make an informed choice about it. Not this whole one-note, one-trick pony that we see from Dr. Anthony Fauci and Rochelle Walensky, who have just been going on and on and on about shots in arms and vaccines for the last 6 months. People are tired of it. They're burnt out on it. Additionally, there's another bit of a correction that has been issued from the Washington Times. Now, they came out yesterday and they said, oh, by the way, the United States Postal Service is going to be exempt from this. This turned out to not be true. So United States postal workers will be subject to President Biden's new COVID-19 vaccine mandates, according to the White House. The Washington Post reported Thursday that the president's action forcing federal workers to get vaccinated had exempted Postal Service workers, but later corrected the error. This came from somebody who was a White House official speaking on the condition of anonymity. I think it's always important to recognize when an outlet actually does something like this and says, hey, you know what, we actually got this wrong. But regardless, there was still a tremendous amount of frustration around the lack of clarity from the Biden administration on this particular issue. The executive order left out loopholes or wasn't necessarily clear enough when it came to really important sectors out there. And so there was a lot of confusion today from pundits talking about the issue, and this came out many times where people were saying, I can't believe the USPS isn't included, when in fact they were under OSHA regulations. And again, OSHA will cover USPS through the ETS, meaning that postal workers will be subject to vaccination or testing policies announced yesterday. So here we see the Biden administration flexing and letting everybody know this will be the precedent that we set over the next, 3 years, that we will forego constitutionality, that we will forego the advice of people, at the highest levels of government that said, hey, don't do this. This is a really bad idea, that they're going to forego all of that in order to get their agenda met. And this is the definition of authoritarianism, that when you forego the advice of experts and the advice of your cabinet in order to do what you want to do, based on the presuppositions of your interpretation of the data, that, my friend, is authoritarianism. And Joy Reid was more than happy today to come out and be an authoritarian. Joy Reid was chomping at the bit to come out today and talk about how much she loves the idea of being an authoritarian. Here's what that sounded like earlier today from the readout.
This is a president who has decided if it's going to be war, it's going to be war against the vaccine and any governors who stand in his way.
I find this to be frightening, that I live in a country who share authoritarian leanings, or they embrace authoritarian leanings, and they talk about it with such fervor and such excitement. I find it to be frightening. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I actually found some comfort in today was several governors came out and they said, you know what, I'm not putting up with this. I'm not interested in this. I'm not going to play along with the Biden administration. Here is Governor Ron DeSantis down in Florida, who I have a number of problems with as a political figure. But I was quite proud of my country to hear a governor come out and say, you know what, I'm not going to put up with federal overreach in my state. Here's what that sounded like earlier this afternoon.
Governor, the president had a lot to say yesterday, and he didn't say your name, but obviously was referring to you. What did you have to say to him back when it came to about the mask mandates?
Well, I would just say generally, when you're taking action that's unconstitutional, that threatens the jobs of the people in my state, many thousands of jobs, I'm standing for them. We're going to protect their jobs against federal overreach. And this is a guy who criticizes the state of Florida for protecting parents' rights. He says school boards should be able to eliminate parents' rights and force 5-year-old kids to wear masks all day. That's what he thinks is appropriate government. Yet, here he comes from Washington, D.C., instituting an unprecedented mandate, which even his own people have acknowledged in the past is not constitutional. That's not leadership. And I think the problem I have with Joe Biden more than anything, this guy doesn't take responsibility for anything.
I wonder what's going to take someone like Inslee to step up to the plate and say, you know what, as much as I might agree with President Joe Biden, I'm going to have to protect the people that live in my state. We'll take a really quick break. When we get back, Tariq Ansari is going to be on the line for our latest and greatest segment, Cringe or Based. We'll take a really quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Cairo Nights. On the line right now, joining us from sunny California, San Francisco, California, one Tariq Ansari, who has decided to leave Seattle to go back to California for no good reason. And as our senior college correspondent, Tariq Ansari, there's nothing I know that college students like more than ditching class and going to a theme park to maybe imbibe in some I don't know what you guys do at theme parks, but I don't know what I'm trying to say, Tark. College kids, they want to be at class, they go places. I'm trying to make a segue here about Disneyland. And
you totally. I mean,
nailed
good
it.
Segue.
Thank you.
Yeah, nailed it. Mm-hmm. Got it. 100%. I can totally tell that you ditched class many times to go to Disneyland and Universal Studios.
That was bad.
Yeah.
That was
but
bad.
I'll tell you what. So I honestly love Disneyland and Universal Studios, and I used to actually go on a couple day trips out there just to go. Maybe they were on school days, maybe they weren't. But the one issue I always had, especially with Disneyland, was the fact that the lines were nuts. And anybody who's gone to Disneyland knows this, or even Universal Studios Hollywood. But compared to just 2 years ago, according to the Los Angeles Times, wait times have dropped on average 15 minutes in Disneyland, and at Universal Studios Hollywood, almost 25 minutes. And there's actually two reasons for this. One, because of the new mask guidelines for these theme parks, there's actually a decrease in visitors. And part of it is because of fear of contracting COVID-19 or a variant, because, theme parks have a lot of, reportedly a lot of people. And the other reason why is people who would otherwise go are turned off by the fact that there are big time mask mandates. So either way, you could argue either way, well, this is, it's unsafe or it's not good enough to go now. Fair enough. But I look at this, as we are doing a cringe or base segment here, as super, super base, because listen up, this is not the 70s anymore. All right. How often are we going to have smaller wait lines at Disneyland, at Universal Studios? Like, I'm looking at the graph here, and it says that Space Mountain went from like nearly 50 minutes, 50 minutes to like 30, and Splash Mountain went to like 25. This is incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a revelation. You will never see this again. Let me tell you something. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
Tarek, I know that you're the live studio audience is very happy for you, Tarek. I'm sorry. But
you're welcome, everybody. You've been informed.
Okay, but this is the thing, Tarek, is that this is super cringe. I hate to pop your bubble, but this is really cringe. You are telling me that a ride that was once 50 minutes long is now 37 and a half minutes long.
No. Under 30. All right, we're talking like a 20-minute decrease. We're talking under 30 minutes to between 20 and 30 instead of 50 to an hour. That's what we're talking about here.
Tarek, life is precious. Life and time is precious. And I can think of few times or few things that I want to waste more in my life than time. And one of the greatest pieces of advice that I ever got from a guy who was a millionaire many times over, he said to me, people treat their time how they treat their money. And if you are willing to throw away or fritter time away, then you are willing to throw away money. Now, this was a guy who went on vacations on a regular basis because he was a very wealthy guy. But if I were to ask this guy, who was a hustler and a mover and a shaker, well, how do you feel about spending a cumulative 3.5-4 hours of my life waiting in line at Disneyland? He would laugh in my face. And I think he'd be right to do that, Tarek Ansari. I get that it's supposed to be the happiest place on earth. I get that we're all supposed to have a good time there. Standing for anything, Tarek Ansari. Hold on, let me get my thing going. Waiting for anything, Tarek Ansari. I don't care if it's the best breakfast place downtown. I don't care if it's the most fun ride at Disneyland. I don't care if it's to go to wait to go see a movie in theaters or to buy a video game that you've been waiting 2 years to come out for. I refuse to do it. You're telling me you want me to wait to sit down for breakfast? No thanks. I'm going to a place down the street. You're telling me that I have to wait in line to buy tickets to see the most recent Star Wars movie? It's not going to happen. I'll wait 2 weeks and read the summary on Wikipedia. This is America, Tarek. I am not waiting for anything. Either I get it now or I don't get it at all. And that's the American way, Tarek Ansari. Do you see what I'm saying? This is cringe. This is so cringe. The idea of waiting for something? No thanks, dude. No thanks.
Jack, you are so full of it.
No.
My gosh, are you kidding me?
No, I'm not, dude.
Yes,
I live my life. I live my life how other people should live their lives. If I had little children and they were desperate to go to Disneyland, you know what I would do? I would get there at the crack of dawn, right when they open the gates, run in, get in as many rides as I can, and then we're done. There's no way I'm going to be there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon waiting for 40 minutes to get on Splash Mountain. Are you out of your mind?
Okay, well, then you do all the rides that have the long lines at first, and then you wait out the rest of the day. If you're going to buy a ticket for Disneyland, you're going there the entire day. You get there at the crack of dawn. You get there right as the gates open, and you stay until they close. Wherever, if it's 11 p.m., it's 11 p.m. But you get the entire day in, and you get all of the big rides done at the beginning or the very end when all the families have gone. That's what you do. And for you to say that I'm an American, I can't wait for things. Oh, I mean, I totally get. I am not a man of huge patience. I am very much like I want something to happen now. But sometimes in life, you have to wait in lines. Gosh, I mean, don't we have to go to the yes. All right.
No.
Even if you don't like it, all right. There are a lot of people out there who like Disneyland, who like Universal Studios, who like getting free stuff at ball games, going to other places. Like I wait like 45 minutes in a line to get a free jersey at a Mariners game. Why? Because it's a free jersey, and you know what? Even if it's mesh material and it's worth $5, it's still hecka cool.
See,
I feel proud when I get it, and it's worth it at the end. And you don't realize that, sir.
No, Tarek. Okay, you just made a California reference, and you just said you wait at the DMV. I will meet you an example, and I will raise you an example. At the DMV in California, you and I both know this as me being a former Californian and you being a current Californian. You can make an appointment, which means no waiting, not a single moment of your life wasted. This is the way that we should be living, Tarek Ansari. If you are wasting your life to get the best breakfast burrito in town, you are a fool. If you are waiting to get the best cookies wherever it is, you are a fool and a charlatan. You need to, your time is so precious and it is so meaningful that to wait 45 minutes for a jersey that you can buy on eBay the next day is insane, Tarek.
Jack,
you have to get on my level.
I get what you're saying, but when jerseys are, I look at it from this way. I'm willing to wait it out and get the jerseys for free than paying like $50, $60 for the jersey on the low end online because, well, A, I'm poor, and B, there's something just kind of cool about it. And also, from a Disneyland perspective, I want to go back to the first part I mentioned where I totally get your angle on this. I totally get I don't want to wait in lines. But I look at it this way. Disneyland and Universal Studios, the lines are going to get bigger and bigger after COVID or towards the end of this coronavirus issue that we're having still somehow. Right now, the wait lines are actually lower than they've been in a long time, and they're never going to be this low again unless we have another one of these terrible viruses come around. That's what I'm trying to say is like this is a stock maybe we should buy now, even if it means waiting and pissing off Jack Stein to no end. Oh, no!
Well, I mean, Tarek, more importantly, this is a problem that I will never have to worry about because I will never go to Disneyland or Universal Studios. I will never go.
What?
And speaking of never going, Tarek Ansari, you got to get out of here because we have to do some good news right after this. So stick around. I got some good news coming up with Sugar Shane Peterson. It's a good one tonight, and you're going to want to hear it. We'll be right back after this. Shane, I think it's weird that we are not... Okay, let me say this. When we talk about 9/11, the word celebration should not be included in that kind of thing, right? But for some reason, I keep finding... And I don't know if it's like an editorial thing or maybe like it's written by a bunch of like Gen Zers or something like that, but I keep finding headlines saying... Biden to celebrate anniversary of 9/11 on blah, 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 blah. And thankfully, our friends over at King 5, they actually had a pretty classy way of going about it. They said 9/11 memorial events across the Puget Sound region, and they have on their website just a ton of different places. South King County, Seattle, Kenmore, Everett, Lacey, Gig Harbor, pretty much anywhere. You can find, or you want to, Bremerton, Pierce County, Lakewood, like DuPont, anywhere you want to go, there's going to be some kind of a thing, some kind of ceremony. So if you want to actually go to something, if it means something for you to actually go and be around other people, King 5's got the whole list over at king5.com. So give a big shout out to King 5. Also, Shane, I don't know if I've been on King 5 TV yet because they recorded me like 2 weeks ago, and I don't think my thing is aired yet.
That's a good question. Because I remember you mentioning it, and I thought I might have seen something that made it on there. I mean, we need to do double checking because I think you might have been on, but I don't know. I think
they cut me out.
You might. Well, here's the thing, Jack. You've also thought that you have been cut out from, your little get to know you bio, but then immediately when you said that, it was already posted. So, maybe we can see if you've actually made it. But
okay, I don't
on.
see anything here. Now this is all about me. I don't see there's anything about me on King 5 right now. I don't think they aired it yet. I think that they cut me from it because they were embarrassed to have me on their television station. On that happy note, Shane Peterson, my good news of the day is that I am proud to be an American today, Shane Peterson, because I am very proud of all the people out there who are my age or your age roughly who remember 9/11. And we still, I don't know what we do, Shane. We think about it and we talk about it and we embrace it for what it was. And for me, Shane, you got to realize this was 20 years ago. And if you had told me when I was 14 years old that 20 years later I would be on the radio talking to people about my thoughts about 9/11, I would have told you that you were crazy. And I think that if we take anything from the last 20 years, it is a phenomenal time to look back at your life and see how far you've come, see how much you've accomplished. It is a thing which puts life into perspective. Rarely in life do we have circumstances that punctuate our lives like how 9/11 did. It's such a chapter-ending moment, and we have been in chapter 2 for the last 20 years. I would imagine that this 20-year anniversary is kind of the end of chapter 2, and with Joe Biden's tyrannical oppression of his fellow American citizens, now we're entering chapter 3, where we have a tyrant for a president. So that's not necessarily good news. But do you get what I'm saying, Shane, that this is a moment to keep in mind that things ebb and flow, and they change, and to look back on your life and reflect on it over the last 20-some-odd years, I think is a very healthy thing to do.
I agree. And, Jack, if you would have told, 6-year-old Shane that was climbing trees because he felt awkward being in his house where everybody was crying, that he would be talking about this day on the radio 20 years from now, I would have told you that you were crazy, too. Because the weird part is I'm only 26. So I was had 2.5 years under my belt of cognitive, brain, being able to remember stuff. And I do remember the day. I remember getting taken out of school early. I remember going home, and I remember my mom changing her shirt and putting on a shirt with an American flag when everything was happening. And it's strange to think about that because, that was something that I didn't make much mind of. I just remember seeing the events and remembering what happens. And a story that my mom, shares a lot with is a very short period of time. I was really scared as a really small child that, the Taliban was going to come to my little small town of, in Northern California, it's only 6,000 people. I thought that they're
coming to Sacramento.
Yeah, I thought
they're coming to Sacramento.
I thought they were going to go fly a plane into the stupid yellow bridge that we have there. So, I got kind of worked up about it. So it's the thing after that is my whole entire life practically that I can basically almost remember fully we've been in war and been over there and having to deal with it. So the fact that we've been getting people out, there's still small numbers over there and it's still kind of a work in progress. It's strange, I don't feel that I'm actually living in the same reality sometimes. It's just such a weird circumstance if you just sit back and think about it and the progression of it, especially, people my age because, we don't know any better. We've just been there. You know what I mean?
I do. And speaking of, not knowing what's going on and being confused and just being there, in the next couple of feud, we're going to have Billy Sunshine on, and we're going to do a deep dive into it's kind of sort of 9/11-y, but not so much, because Biden is going to be going to the Ground Zero memorials. He's probably in New York right now, as a matter of fact. And he's only going with Obama, but Donald Trump's not going to be there. So Billy and I are going to go into that, and then he's also talking about how he's trying to push the nation past the 9/11 era by becoming a complete and total tyrant. So we'll take a really quick break. When we get back, Billy Sunshine is going to be on the line, and a whole lot more Cairo Nights coming up right after this.